You're listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
Okay, you're very, very welcome, folks. My name is Ahonu, and I want to welcome you to our session today on luck, karma, and fortune. And we are fortunate to have you with us today. And we're very, very fortunate to have Aingeal Rose with us today. And we are so looking forward to getting answers to a lot of questions about luck, karma, and fortune. Now, our seasoned participants will know from where these sessions have originated. But for our newcomers, it's important for your understanding that I give you a very, very brief understanding, really, of what to expect. And you should know that throughout these sessions, Aingeal Rose is not in a trance, and neither is she channeling through any psychic entity, spirit, or ascended master. She is downstepping this information directly from source. We do want you to know that many of the questions that have been asked in these sessions have led to Aingeal Rose's two books in the Honest to God series. The first is A Time of Change, which is available from atimeofchange.info, and the second is The Nature of Reality, which is available from thenatureofreality.info. Finally, we ask you that once the session is over, please do go to the World of Empowerment website and leave your comments about the session today. We would really, really appreciate that. So that's the end of the formal introductions. I'd like now to welcome our very own beloved Aingeal Rose.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ahonu, for that. We've got a good crowd today, so please don't be shy about putting your questions in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say the prayer. Let's get started, okay?
Okay.
All right. Just a second. Okay, we have three colors today in the room. We have green, yellow, and blue that relate to this question. And the feeling I have about the green and yellow specifically is it feels very buoyant and happy. Okay, so let's go ahead then, Hannah.
Okay, our first question, as is always, Aingeal Rose, we like to ask Source, what is Source's definition of each of these items, luck, karma, and fortune? So perhaps you could ask what is Source's definition of luck to begin with.
So Source is saying that luck is really the ability to be in a synchronistic flow with the universe. So it has something to do with synchronicity. All right, so just a second. It's really kind of an opening to receive. What I'm actually being shown is these little pockets. In other words, if you were like in the flow of the universe, you know, you wanted something or something synchronistic was going to happen to you, that there would be these little pockets, little openings, like windows where these things would occur. So luck is when those openings occur and you happen to be in alignment with them at the same time. All right, it does seem to have something to do with our ability to receive and also to be in the flow of life. And Source is saying that we don't really realize how much interference and resistance we put up that keeps us out of the flow. And those have to do with what we're preoccupied with. So in other words, because we don't have a basic trust that if we just allow ourselves to be in the flow of life, that things would spontaneously show up for us when we need them, because we don't trust that, and we're trying so hard to figure it all out and to plan and do things that we actually take ourselves out of the flow of life. So what I'm feeling is that we'd all be lucky all the time if we could have the ability to surrender to the flow of life. Okay, what was the next one, Hannah?
It was, what is Source's definition of karma?
Karma, okay. You know, what's interesting is Source is actually defining it as that which we bring upon ourselves. And I find that a very interesting answer because, of course, you know, if you read lots of books on karma, it's the law of cause and effect, which means like attracts to itself that which it is. Like attracts like. So whatever your belief systems are, whatever your actions are, whatever your decisions are, those all have an effect. So karma is what those effects are like. If you cause destruction to somebody or have destructive thoughts that are against life, then the idea is that sooner or later you're going to experience the very same. But Source is defining it as that which we bring to ourselves. And even though that may sound similar to what I just said, it's really making a distinction that we really do bring circumstances to ourselves, you know, by the way we think and believe predominantly. Because it is your thoughts and your beliefs that actually cause manifestations to occur. Okay, somebody needs to mute their mic for me. So what I'm seeing is that it isn't a punishment by Source. It is kind of really checks and balances in the natural law. Okay, what goes around comes around and all this and that, you know? But to me, it was set up to be a balancer. Okay, now I'm being really clear to say it's not a punishment. It's a balancer. And it's kind of like the way planets are set up, the way life is set up, is that it all strives to keep a balance, okay? Keep this flow that we've been speaking about earlier. So when we do something to upset the balance of life, then there's going to be something else that tries to counterbalance that. All right, and we may experience that in a wide variety of ways. All right, so that's what karma actually is. It's just a law of nature, actually, what Source is saying, that tries to keep things in balance. All right,
And
so third
what
one.
then, Aingeal Rose, is Source's definition of fortune?
Fortune. Right, well, first it's saying there's different types of fortune, but fortune in general is really the law of abundance, which we see everywhere. Okay, I keep wanting to say fortuna, but it really does have to do with God's glory and God's abundance. So it was really designed that way for there to be plenty of everything, plenty of food, plenty of plant life, plenty of grass and seeds and anything you could imagine. It's really a law of plenty. And we are all entitled to the law of plenty. And this really is what Source has designed for us. Okay, fortune that other people think of has to do with physical money. And Source basically says there's plenty of that as well. So it's not like it's separating out abundance into certain things and leaving other things out. Okay, so fortune is your divine birthright, actually. It is to be fortunate, to be in goodness, to be lucky, as the natural way it's supposed to be. All right, so this is really what our divine birthright is. Did I lose my host?
No, I'm here, Aingeal Rose. Does God initiate luck, karma, or fortune?
God doesn't initiate it because it's there. It's already been there. It's already been initiated. It's not like God's up there deciding who's going to partake of luck, karma, or fortune. It's been something that's been given to us from the onset. You know what Source already has mandated that it be so. Like I say, Source doesn't pick out who gets it and who doesn't. There's not a judgmental God. So this whole idea of somebody might be more deserving than somebody else, you know, is not in place at the level of Source. Okay, what is in place, though, is like how we set up our own resistances to the flow of life because we don't trust in our innate goodness. That's in place. That determines who's in the flow. The other part of it is our karmic balancing that's going on in our own lives. And again, these are all predetermined by us. What we think, what we believe, how we act, how we behave, what we project, what we decide. All of these things determine karmic balance, because if the law is abundance, if our natural law is fortune and luck, if we aren't experiencing that, it's because of our own belief systems or our own inner karmic balancing. Okay, and think about it this way. Probably in a given day, we all have a wide variety of thoughts. Some are positive, some are negative. Okay, some are happy, some are just so-so. Some are depressed, some are jubilant. Okay, and in a given day, we could have a myriad of thoughts and feelings going on all day long, and we look out of our perceptual windows out into the world, and we make a decision about what we're seeing. Now, the problem is that most of us aren't really consciously aware of what we're seeing. We just see. We just, in the background there's going all these thoughts and decisions and assessments. And because of that, Source is saying that if you take the percentage of how many of our thoughts and viewpoints are truly, truly exhilarating, positive, joyful, expecting abundance and good, where we're not in worry about something, or we're not concerned, or we're not, thinking about what we need to be doing next to ensure our security or survival or whatever, probably 99% of our thoughts are geared towards those things. We may have 1% that is ever in a true place of positive expectancy where we're not trying to figure things out. Okay, so when Source is saying, even with karma, that it's what we bring to ourselves, and luck is being able to be in total trust and being able to be in the flow where synchronicities occur, where you're in alignment with those open windows. We ask ourselves, where are we in relation to that, in our thinking and our expectancy, really? Okay.
Okay, our next question is about why certain people seem to have more luck than others. And specifically, we have a question in the chat about Warren Buffett. What did he do to accrue his amazing fortune?
Okay, that's two questions. So the first one is, why do some people seem more luckier than others?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Well, there are a few factors to this. Okay. Some people have accrued some really good karma from past lives based on their actions and what they've done with those lives. I call it, they have a good karmic bank. They have a storehouse of positive balancing things that they're going to receive in a lifetime because of what they've done before. Okay, so some people have that. All right. Other people are born into situations where things are easier for them. But here's the thing. I want people to go back a little bit and remember that before you come into a life, you are making a soul contract. So you decide based on your soul's progress and history and what's happened to you in other lives and where you've achieved victories and where you didn't do so well. You decide before you come in what your contract is going to be, what you want to get done, what your soul wants to learn, how it wants to progress. So you could be setting up a contract for yourself to get a lot done on a soul level in terms of more virtues, or, service to others, let's say. Or perhaps you're somebody who's, like I mentioned at first, has already done a lot of that, and they're coming in this life where things are easy for them. Okay, so that's one of the reasons people seem to have more luck than others. Okay, so just a second. When you ask me something like Warren Buffett, for example, or people who have money, you have to keep in mind the soul contract, okay, that it's set up a certain way for certain things to happen at certain times so that they have openings or opportunities. And some, like I mentioned, have set that up for themselves. Somebody could, before they even come into this life, set up a contract where they're going to want to experience what it's like to have a lot of financial abundance. Okay, because remember, we're talking about abundance can be something on a lot of levels. But let's just say it's financial abundance. Okay, they could be setting it up to have that, to learn certain things or to give to the world in certain ways. Okay, so, I'd have to say that you'd have to kind of look at each person's soul contract to see what they're going through. And some people, by the way, set up soul contracts that are challenges for them to go beyond really old belief systems. So, and I mean really old belief systems of lack or no pain, no gain, and we're going to kind of get into the topic of what does it mean to be free? Okay, so, inevitably, right, we are all going to come to freedom. And freedom really has to do with a soul wanting to decide that it wants to be a very conscious manifester, that it wants to clear out a lot of old dogmas that it could have inherited from this life or other lives, that we're willing to let go of trauma, and we're moving into forgiveness. That when you start doing those sorts of things, that synchronicity that I'm talking to you about gets more and more frequent. Okay, because really, you have to remember that we are on a pathway to mastery. Mastery doesn't mean, well, there's all levels of mastery, let's just say. Some people are here just to play sports and develop their body. Other people are here to have families. Other people are here to, move beyond poverty consciousness and move into abundant consciousness. Some people have had trauma and they can't trust, so they're here to learn about trust. But all of these things, once they're cleared and forgiven, they lead you into the flow that I'm talking about, where things just naturally occur. Because I have to reinforce that what Source is getting across is that synchronistic events, those open windows where you're in the flow of life, or, luck or fortune, or getting what you need all the time, those are natural. That's the way it's been set up by Source. So if it isn't happening, it's because of a programming we have or of a balancing that's going on. Okay, but still, even if it's karma is overcome by forgiving. Anytime you can take a look or an assessment of your soul through meditation or just through what's happening in your life and forgive things that have gone on, okay, and choose instead to be in the flow of abundance or love, let's call it that, because it's the same thing, really. Every time you do that, and the more you do that, and the more you find out the content of your own subconscious mind, and you move beyond beliefs, okay, and change your mind about things, which you're free to change your mind about anything you've been told. The more you do that, the more you are in the flow, okay? Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did, Aingeal Rose. And a lot of the questions that we have in the lineup here, Aingeal Rose, you have already answered by way of explaining things in a general way. And we have a question, for example, what specific steps does Source tell us that we should do daily in order to amass a fortune of financial wealth? But you have more or less answered that by saying be in total trust and be in alignment.
Let me talk about that a little more, though, Ahonu.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. So even the phrase amass a total fortune, okay? Who's ever asking that, you do have to, first of all, really look at the motivations for that desire. You know, I'll be honest, there's times when I say, I just want to be really wealthy. And I look at my motivations for why I want that. And I think this is an important thing to do. And then I will go into 5 steps that Source might give us, okay? But motivation is an interesting thing, because if the motivation for a desire, whether it's fortune or whatever it is based on a premise of lack or a fear of lack, you know, it's never going to happen. You know, that fortune will not happen because it's the underlying belief structure is one of lack. Lack, denial, inability to receive, beliefs in struggle and having to work hard to get everything. All of these things kind of need to be looked at, but certainly your motivations for things have a lot to do with what turns out. It's kind of a catch-22, really, because when Source is asking us to be in total trust, that total trust is based on the knowing that the natural condition of the universe is abundance. Okay, you have to know that fundamentally. You can't be believing that, you know, there's the have and the have-nots, that there's only abundance for some and not for others. I always tell people, just go outside and look at nature. I mean, right now where I am sitting, I must be looking at hundreds of trees, all of different species, all, you know, delivering avocados, delivering grapefruits, delivering oranges, roses blooming, going away, seeds falling, squirrels picking up seeds. I mean, look outside and look at nature, and you cannot deny that we are in a universe of abundance. It's everywhere. Okay, so that means that it's designed in its core, all right, to be prosperous, to promote life, to give. Especially, you know, like I mentioned, you look at these fruit trees, they just give, give, give. In fact, there's so many oranges on the ground in with the area where we live, and grapefruits, and they just go to rot because no one's picking them up. My point is that there's an abundance, and it's designed that way. So to amass a large fortune, you have to know that you are in the flow of fortune. You are in the flow of that abundance, and there's no reason why you can't have it. That has to be the fundamental knowing underneath it. Can't be any doubt, because if you have doubt, that's one of the things that you have to look at. And you know, it's doubt, it's deserving, it's programming you may have gotten from your parents. There's even a convoluted loyalty thing we have to our parents. If they, you know, children oftentimes will have a little bit of loyalty issues or guilt issues if they're going to surpass their parents in wealth. Okay, so there's all sorts of beliefs to look at here, okay? So I think fundamentally, though, when you have a desire, it's always important to first ask yourself, what's my motivation for the desire? Because it can't be coming from a lack belief. Okay, so you asked for 5 steps from Source, so hang on. So the first, number 1 that Source is giving me is, know that you are worthy. So that's a statement that you need to write down. And I would write that statement down, and then after that, I'd ask myself, how do I feel about that? How do I feel about my worth? Okay, emotionally, belief-wise, okay? Do I feel I deserve all of that? If I said to you today, All you have to do is be in acceptance of the fact that you're loved by Source, that Source's universe is designed to sustain you. Okay, that fortune will find you if you can be in that place. So that's the first thing Source is asking us to look at. Number 2 is expectancy. It's asking us to be in a place where we expect good to come to us. Okay, we expect it. Okay, and I would be asking myself, where am I in terms of expecting that? Do I expect it? Do I know it as an expectancy? All right. Number 3, Source is talking to us. 2 things popped in immediately. One was gratitude. The other 2 is, what is our attitude towards our brothers and sisters? Okay, so the gratitude thing, let me see what it wants to say about that. Gratitude really is appreciation. Another word for gratitude is appreciation. Appreciation for the life that you have. Appreciation for where you are in the world now. But more than that, I'm getting it's an appreciation of your very life. Your life itself. The fact that you exist, that you're here, that you're in a physical form, you're in the earth. Okay, so how do you feel about the gratefulness of where you are, and what is your attitude towards your brothers and sisters? And the image I get with that is I see a hand being extended. Are you in a place where you naturally extend your hand to others? Are you ready to respond or offer anything to other people, whether it's a kind word, whether it's a dollar bill or 2 or 5 or 100, you're fulfilling a need when you're called upon. I'm not saying that you need to go out and look for needs. That's not what he's saying. It's saying when you see a need, how do you respond? Because those things seem to go hand in hand with the flow of abundance. Number 4, Source is saying to tell someone you love them every day. Speak the words, I love you, every day to someone. And when I say that, when I was just given that, and I say that myself, I just felt this energy just really increase. So every day, verbally, tell someone you love them. Number 5, Source is saying, continue learning. Part of what we're doing here is knowledge is really important. Make it your business to learn. Learn about all kinds of things. Have a happy attitude of learning. And this means till the day you leave this planet, don't stop learning. Okay. And I think that's an interesting last step, because it's actually implying that, we get complacent, or our attitudes get a little bit despondent. And so we don't pick up a book and learn, or we don't, like if I said to any of you, if you were to go back to school and do something that you maybe have thought about earlier in your life and you never did it. And now you say to yourself, oh, I'm too old now. I'm middle-aged. I'm close to retirement. So you never do these things. You never learn. You never grow and expand. Okay, so it's not just learning. It's things that would expand you as well. Learn a new trade. If you've never learned how to sew, for example, go learn how to sew. If you've always wanted to paint and you never did it, go do it. Take some time to expand your development in some way. And Source is saying that the reason people live to certain ages is because you're here to keep growing and expanding in knowledge. Okay, so you don't give up just because you're middle-aged or just because you're close to retirement. All right? Because even in retirement, you can continue to learn. It doesn't mean you have to be in school. It could be that you travel somewhere and you learn about the culture. Okay, but it's all about personal expansion, gaining knowledge. Okay, and the reason for that is because the more you know, the more you can share. And the more you share, the more you're giving. Giving, whether somebody just happens to be sitting in a group and they're talking about Greece, for example, and you've been there and you've studied it or you've learned about it, and someone has a question and you're there to give an answer. It could be something that simple. But the point is that you prolong your abundant destiny when you get complacent and you stop expanding. Okay, so think of messages that you give to the universe with your actions and behaviors and your thoughts and your beliefs and what you think you can do and what you think you can't do. Those are all messages to the universe. And you have to remember that the plasma field out there, the energetic plasma field, just says yes to whatever you decide. Okay, so if you decide, all right, I'm done growing, I can't do this anymore because I'm this age, or that's impossible, it basically says, all right, fine, that's what you'll get. Reminding you that we bring it to ourselves. That's what Source is saying. We bring it, whatever we experience, to ourselves. All right, let me just see if there's another suggestion, although that is 5, so hang on. No, that's good, Hannah. We can go on to the next one.
Well, Aingeal Rose, those 5 steps alone have answered a whole bunch of questions that we had in the line. For example, how can a person win the lottery? And how can a person specifically get in alignment with winning the lottery? And you have answered it with those. And they are very, very powerful steps indeed.
Let me address the lottery, because everybody wants to win the lottery.
Okay.
So let's address the lottery. Well, the first thing Source, again, would say, and I don't mean to be redundant, but it is what it's saying, is do you really expect and believe to win the lottery? Okay, because, again, I'm not going to go over everything we've already talked about, but certainly you would examine your motivation for the lottery. Have written down on a piece of paper what you would really do with the lottery. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with writing down, I'm just going to have a great time. Okay? It doesn't always have to be some sort of, philanthropic thing that you have to do with money. You don't have to say, oh, I'm going to feed the poor, I'm going to donate to charity. You don't have to do that. There's no law that says that just because you have an abundance of money that you have to give it away. So be very honest with yourself when you have a desire to win the lottery, and write it down tangibly on a piece of paper and say, this is what I would do with this money. Okay? This is what I would do with it. And just get a really clear picture of what it is you're really desiring by wanting the lottery. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is you do have to be in a positive expectancy. Somebody wins it all the time. The truth is somebody always wins the lottery. So why not you? I would also pick the same numbers every week to energize them, focus your attention on them, just to build up an energy field around them. All right, you can give the message to the universe that, these are the numbers that are going to come in. So it is possible to win the lottery. Lottery is, again, being able to accept a large amount of abundance at one time. All right, now you could say, well, there's also billions of other people who are desiring the same thing, and that's true. So there is a little bit of synchronicity involved in winning the lottery. So go back and listen to what we just said about synchronicity, okay, and make sure that you're putting yourself in that sort of a surrender place. And once again, you really have to look at if the motivation is based on lack. Okay, that's really, really important.
Now, Aingeal Rose, we're going to switch tack very slightly here because our next question is about the animal kingdom. Do animals experience luck, karma, and fortune in the same way as we do?
Ahonu, that question had to come from you.
it did.
It always like the hot questions. Okay, just a minute.
Yes, but
they do come out of left field.
No,
okay.
I do know also that it's a question that has been asked in various forums in the past too, when we speak about animals and communication with animals. And we've seen certain animals evolve more or seem more in synchronous with us now in this time, in this great time of change that we're in. And I wonder if they experience luck, karma, and fortune like we do.
Well, you know, it's interesting because on one level, sources saying that animals are actually more in the flow of life than we are. And I mean that because they don't have a thinking mind quite like ourselves, they do have an instinctual nature that does allow them to know where to go and where not to go for abundance. See, animals are kind of an interesting question now that you bring it up because there's all different levels of animal evolvement. So like if you take animals that we have as pets, for example, there can be some luck or synchronistic events that bring certain animals to us. And that could be past life stuff as well. Because animals, they do have a consciousness, they do have a cause and effect relationship with themselves, but they're not thinking creatures the way we actively conjure up a thought and think about it and decide. But there are situations in terms of soul growth for both, for the animal and let's say the human in a domesticated situation where they would find one another through some sort of a synchronistic flow. Or like I say, they could have been together in past lives and they're coming back around again to continue a growth because the animals do evolve. So there is that present. What they don't seem to have, though, is karma. Karma the way we do. Okay, in the sense of, I think the law of nature determines their karma. In other words, in terms of the whole predatory aspect of nature, that seems to be the karmic balancer on the animal level. And again, it seems like it's something that's set up as a group thing with the animal kingdom until they evolve out of that as a species. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. They just gave me a picture of a horse, let's say, that's used for hard work in a life. Okay, well, in a way, when we do that to animals, we take away their natural freedom. All right, in other words, it's not like the animal had a choice. It's somebody sold the animal, somebody else buys it to be a beast of burden. Its life is spent being burdened, okay? It works hard. In that case, that horse actually does evolve the group soul of horses on the level of service. Okay, so it does stand to reason or indicate that it would also have a life where maybe the next time it's either free or it meets somebody who uses it for a glorious or happier purpose. What comes to mind is, the horse whisperer, for example, where all of a sudden the horse might still be doing service, but it's doing it out of a loving place instead of a force. Okay, so there is situations like that in the animal kingdom. Out in the wild, though, animals do evolve as group souls as well. And we're actually seeing more and more of that lately when you look at things that are posted on Facebook or videos of animals that should be natural enemies and now they're friends. The most unlikely pairs, for example. Okay, so we're watching an evolvement happen in the group consciousness of animals, and that evolvement also does feel that these animals are becoming more self-conscious. Okay, so they don't have karma such as in the way that we do. In other words, we have probably more complex karma because we are thinkers and deciders. Animals have a karmic balance according to the law of nature in a way, and the group soul evolves when an animal is sacrificed in some way or an animal is abused, okay, and somehow that comes out of that. It does evolve the group soul of those species. So I hope that's answering it. Am I answering it enough?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Now, our next question, Aingeal Rose, has to do with predictions. A lot of people really, really relish the whole area of predictions, or maybe it's our human nature that has us attracted to it. But can you predict good luck? Like, can, say, a fortune teller, for example, say to somebody that they're going to win the lottery, that they're going to become lucky in love, in life, whatever? Can you predict it for somebody?
Well, you can see it. And I'm being clear to not use the word prediction, you see, because predictions either manifest or they don't. But a good reader can look into someone and kind of see down the road and tell them what they have coming. Okay, so they can definitely see that in a person, but they can't just make a willy-nilly prediction. It's usually, it's not really a prediction. It's like they're seeing a future unfoldment of the person's life, so they can definitely see that. They might also be able to see why it wouldn't be happening in a personal reading. Okay, so those things would be really beneficial, actually. Sources want me to address for a minute, if I could, the whole idea of collective mass beliefs. Do you mind if I do that in relation to this subject?
Please do. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so just a minute, because it just came in, so let me see what it wants to say. See, what I'm being shown is that there is a very strong energy out there that is designed to suppress our freedom. So it's almost like we're pushing against this river of influence that has been around for generations, that really does come from a whole lack perception, limited. Think words like sources giving me, like we believe in limitations. We have filters on how something can come to us. We have basically governmental forces in a system that is designed to keep you within a particular construct. Even the educational system really programs children early on in terms of what are the boundaries of reality. Okay, we've got, mental health institutions that don't let people get too fringe. Otherwise, there's something wrong with them. So we've got drugs and medicines and things that also traumatize the brain. This is something interesting Source wants to address, because on the one hand, it's saying you can get beyond all of that if you really want to. If a person really is interested in their own freedom, in the way we've been talking about today, every single person can overcome, all right, the mass projections that are out there that tell them that they can't, that make them doubt, that try to set them back, because that definitely is in force as well. In fact, if you're anybody who's ever really done any conscious manifesting, you will know once you start to make decisions for more prosperity or more abundance, then all of a sudden it looks like the car breaks down and the refrigerator goes and somebody needs you in the family and you have to stop what you're doing. There's all sorts of things that will come up that try to take you back to your, I'm going to call it a complacent self, just for language purposes, to make the point. So if anyone truly wants their freedom, they can get it. But it does involve conscious awareness and diligence to the process. Okay, because the mass consciousness is set up to keep workers in place. And here's a question that, people do go through also when they consider what I'm saying. The question comes up to say, well, if everybody suddenly was in abundance and they quit their jobs, who would do the work? Who would be the person who picks up the garbage? Who would be the person who's the janitor in a school? Who would be the clerk in the grocery store? Okay, and they have a tendency to think that if everybody was suddenly in an abundance frame of mind, that nobody would ever do those sorts of jobs. But that's not true, you see. And again, the reason is because you have to consider a soul contract. There is a level of soul evolvement that's all about service to others. And somebody could be really, really happy, joyful, being that grocery clerk or being the garbage man. So we have to even look at the parts of us that think that nobody would work. That's not true. Because part of the joy is in giving a gift to the world. It's in giving to the world in some capacity. And I think if people were truly free of the lack belief, then they would be doing things just for the joy of doing them. Okay, be total different perception that we would have. Okay, but Source just wants to make the point that there is a mass consciousness program out there that keeps people limited. It keeps your brain frequencies small. And the brain, by the way, does have a lot to do with what you can receive in terms of knowledge and information. So like if you're somebody who deliberately does things that dull your brain, then your brain's going to have a limited capacity to give and receive, transmit and receive knowledge and information. The brain is the transmitter and receiver. That's all it does. It can receive knowledge from higher and higher spiritual sources if it's wired correctly. Okay, and what are the things that wire it correctly? Okay, well, it is things like love and forgiveness. It is things like sharing and undoing your trauma. And we find, Ahonu, you and I have had this conversation, and we're actually going to do a topic very soon on this topic, is the effect that trauma has on the brain. And we're going to look for solutions from Source about that. But what I'm hearing from Source is, despite the onslaught of a system that's designed to keep us all small, if you have the desire to move into what we've been talking about today, nothing can stop you.
Now, Aingeal Rose, numbers. We know, and we have had a lot of experience with the synchronicity of numbers. Indeed, your own birthday is 11/11, and I'm 11/2, and I was born in house number 22, and many, many people have seen 11/11s on their digital clocks. And can you talk to us about the luck of numbers, and specifically, let's say, the luck in the likes of a Las Vegas casino or somewhere, throwing dice or whatever? Do certain numbers have more luck than others? Or is it entirely the projection of the person?
Okay, well, it does look like there are certain numbers that vibrate a little faster, or whose frequency is a little bit faster than other numbers. But what I hear Source say is you have to be able to handle those numbers. Okay, in other words, the number 7's coming up. 3, 7, some of the mastered numbers, 22, 33, 44, 55, and on up. 8, okay, all have powerful energy to them. Okay, but what Source is saying is that Actually, if you go to a good astrologer, somebody, this probably might be a good exercise for everybody to do just to see. In astrology, not only do they look at the numbers of your name and your birth date, they also look at your soul numbers and they look at your challenge numbers. Okay, now, so I think challenge numbers are when you add up a person's name and numbers, there'll be certain numbers that they might be missing. And so, in other words, I think for myself, don't think I have a lot of 7s or 9s or something. Okay, well, they would go and look at what those numbers are all about in terms of a frequency and a soul capacity. And those challenge numbers would be the things that you need to master this lifetime. Because the thing with numbers, okay, and let's talk about when people change their names. Some people change their names just because they've done the numerology and they've looked into numbers and they find that the number 8, for example, is a very powerful number. It has to do with skill of having a powerful position in the world, consequently more money, whatever. It's a powerful number. The thing is that if your normal numbers don't vibrate to an 8, some people will change their names so that the 8s are in there. Okay. But what I've seen happen is they might all of a sudden attract more opportunities to themselves for upgrade. But if they internally can't get themselves to naturally vibrate to those numbers, sooner or later they'll come crashing down. They may amass a fortune, but they won't keep it. Or they'll experience some sort of legal problem, for example. So there is a natural resonance that we have with numbers, and it isn't that you can't incorporate a higher vibration into your system, because you can. That's what it's all about. But you just have to be sure that if you're somebody who is going to use numbers to change your life, that you can naturally integrate those frequencies. So when people see 1111s, for example, those are all wake-up calls. When you see those sorts of things happen there, it's basically they're saying, pay attention, get on a spiritual path, take a look at your soul progress. The world is changing. And the higher up it goes, there's more responsibility with each number. The higher the frequencies of numbers, okay, the more responsibility there is to it. All right, so when you go to Vegas, they should all go with Dr. Joe Gallenberger, as you and I know, a good friend of ours who works at the Monroe Institute, and he takes people to Las Vegas 3 or 4 times a year, actually. And there's a whole little workshop ahead of time about becoming one with the dice. It isn't so much about the numbers. It's about becoming one with whatever, whether it's dice, whether it's the slot machine. So he's bringing in a relationship between the dice or the board or the, the slot machine. And in a way, what he's doing, he's kind of working at a higher frequency because he's dissolving the idea of separation between things. We think of, we have to roll particular numbers, so we focus on the numbers. Well, that's not what he would do. He'd basically have you focus on the relationship that you have with the dice and all of that. And his people always win. They always win. There's never anybody that goes home with a loss. So if you're truly interested in exploring that, Dr. Joseph Gallenberger, Gallenberger, his website is sync, SYNC, creation.com. Check that out, because you might get a whole different perspective about gambling in general, and we'll include the lottery in that.
Okay, Aingeal Rose. 2 of the recent questions you did already cover, like, for example, evolving as a human species and, aligning ourselves with more fortune as we evolve. And then another question that was very much like that was about healing that karma. And you did list out various steps for us in order to be able to do that. Our final question today: can an Akashic record reading help a person to win the lottery or know the specific location of property that has oil or gold in it?
You know, I once had somebody call me and wanted me to tell them where the Philosopher's Stone was.
Okay. Where is it, Aingeal Rose?
Well, it's actually within, unfortunately. Okay, but anyway. Well, I'm getting that it could answer some of those questions. It's not going to give lottery numbers that win, though, I'll tell you that, okay? And you have to keep in mind that an Akashic Record reading is about the soul growth, okay? And so, therefore, it's not necessarily a predictive medium for telling you, you know, where to go dig. So I wouldn't want to be put in the position of somebody asking me that, let's just say, because Source is going to come back and say, well, you know, why do you want that? What's your motivation? And here's the thing, and it's not an evasion, because here's the second piece I just got. If you're implementing what we've talked about today, you're naturally going to be drawn to places that are fortunate for you. Okay, so, you know, you don't have to set it up in your head that the only way you're going to achieve wealth is through the lottery. Okay, because if you're in an alignment, especially with the 5 steps that we talked about today, luck is going to be your everyday experience. Synchronistic events are going to be what you encounter. And you have to keep in mind that they'll all lead you to your natural abundance. Because that's, again, what was set up for everyone. All right, so I hope I answered that. Here again is the issue where, you know, people don't want to do the work that we've talked about. They don't really want to do that sort of inner exploration and questioning. Okay, but in order to be in the flow of life, you actually have to be in harmony with it. And you only get in harmony with it when you clear up the stuff that's opposing it. It's natural. It's not something that you have to search for. It'll naturally occur. All right, so that's the answer that you'd probably get in the records.
Okay, Aingeal Rose, that brings us to the end of our questions. And as is traditional now, I'm going to read a very, very quick summary of what we've covered today. Luck is being in synchronistic flow with the universe. Luck is an opening to receive. We don't realize how much interference we put in the way of us receiving luck. When we are in the flow of life, we are spontaneously lucky. When we surrender to the trust of God, we find luck is automatic and spontaneous. When we have destructive thoughts, we close off luck and open karma. Karma is a law of nature that seeks balance. Fortune is the law of God's abundance that is evident everywhere. Fortune is our divine birthright. Luck, karma, or fortune. I'm trying to read my own writing here.
Quite difficult to how to.
I know, it's like a spider walked across the page, but especially when I'm trying to write it down as quickly as you speak. But I think I've got the essence of it now. It says here, luck, karma, or fortune is given to us from the onset and does not need to be initiated by God. Our thoughts and feelings determine our degree of luck, karma, and fortune. Those not expending energy trying to figure things out and are in total trust find good luck easily. Some people have accrued a storehouse of good fortune in their karmic bank. Some people set up abundant opportunities before incarnating that lead them to great soul lessons, but money is not the measure of soul growth. Freedom is a soul deciding to be a conscious manifester. Synchronicity becomes more frequent on our pathway to mastery. Synchronicity is an open window to the flow of life. Negative belief systems inhibit our good luck and good fortune. We are free to choose in every moment. Look at your motivations when desiring fortune. If the underlying belief is one of struggle and lack, the desire of good luck and fortune will never happen. The natural condition of the universe is abundance. Now here are 5 steps to abundance. The first step, know that you are worthy. Know that Source's universe is designed to sustain you. 2, expectancy. Be in a place where you expect good to come to you. 3, gratitude. Appreciate the very life you have and all that's in it. And you did put a note in there, Aingeal Rose, about the attitude towards your brothers and sisters, about remembering that attitude. Number 4, tell someone you love them every day. I love you, Aingeal Rose.
I love you too.
That's my karmic bank for today. Continue learning. Make it your business to learn and never stop learning. Life's purpose is to grow and expand in knowledge. You prolong your abundant destiny when you stop learning. The energetic plasma field responds to your every desire. Picking the same lottery numbers every week helps to energize them. Animals actually are more in the flow of life than we are, due to their reliance on their instinctual nature. The laws of nature determines the karma of animals. Animals are becoming more self-conscious as nature's group soul evolves. Predicting good luck is possible because timelines can be seen. There's a strong negative energy that is trying to suppress our freedom to keep us in a lack perception. For one interested in freedom, know that you can overcome all negative perceptions. Many people choose a soul contract that is only about service to others. The brain is the transmitter and receiver of knowledge, but it must be wired for love and forgiveness. Some numbers vibrate faster than others. For example, 3, 7, 8, 11, and all the master numbers have a powerful energy to them. Changing your name in terms of its numerology can help align you with an upgraded lifestyle, but your inner core resonance must match the new frequency. The higher the frequency of the number, the greater the responsibility. An Akashic Records reading is about soul growth, not to predict the winning lottery numbers. And finally, when you are in the flow of life, you will find yourself naturally in good fortune, abundance, and harmony. So that brings us to the end of our session today. And I'm going to ask Aingeal Rose to come back now and to close the records.
All right, Ahonu, and it just occurred to me from this session today that we will be creating an online workshop that is only about this, because I did see in the chat that someone had asked, how do you increase your ability to receive? Well, this all has to do with our ability to love ourselves and to totally accept what we're talking about today. And there's stages to that. So I think that's something that we'll plan for everyone, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your wonderful questions today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Aingeal Rose. Now remember to enter your comments on worldofempowerment.com. And we appreciate you all being here and for participating and for your wonderful questions. And I'm going to add to my own karmic bank now by saying that I love you. And until next week, thank you from myself, Ahonu, and from Aingeal Rose.
You've been listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose and Ahonu. To get the profound statements from the Akashic Records in your mailbox each week, log on to worldofempowerment.com.